Well, it is Brian's turn, and he has been regaling me with stories of memes and other things having to do with travel because, of course, I am somewhere in Maine. It's Bar Harbor. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever been to Bar Harbor, Maine. That's where I'm spending the day today and off to something called Cape Cod tomorrow. Is that something to do with the meal that I'm supposed to have in that Cape? Is
Yeah,
cod?
they have super cod, which
Super
of
cod.
course wears a cape.
I see. Sorry. We'll be looking forward to that. Okay, Brian, listen, we have serious things to pursue here. We really have to look at these very big deals coming out. I'm so confused because so many things have come out over the last few days that people are going, what did Elon mean? That could be a new meme. You can start.
Mhm.
I'll give you that one for free. All right. So Elon said the other day that the factory with maybe an S in it, factory or factories that have 3 million unit capacity. And some people think, I think that means just in Austin. Other people think that means worldwide. Other people are confused and don't know. And so I'm thinking, who else but Brian White to ask that question? Is it 3 million in Austin alone once they get Cybertruck, Model 3, Model Y, the new model, the cyber, the what do you call it, the robotaxi, everything happening down in Texas? Are they going to make 3 million there based on the expansion?
There is a non-zero possibility they could do 3 million in Texas, but that wasn't how I read his comment. He said, we can make a transitional compact, an intermediate compact today on the existing lines, get it done quickly and get it out because we do have today 3 million capacity. So that's not counting other ramps, that's counting just the capacity. So when I did the tour of the factory in Fremont, the docent, I guess, the tour guide said, "Oh, we have a capacity of," and the number extrapolated out to like 900,000 a year.
In
And
Fremont?
I in Fremont. Now that is the burst rate, but the X and S lines are underutilized for sure.
Yeah.
But they do have more capacity. And if you look at if Fremont was running at full speed on the 3 and Y and Texas was running full speed on the Y, you would be making too many cars.
Yeah.
So it is very possible to redirect some of that capacity to other things. The fun thing I asked was, yeah, you guys showed us a glimpse of the Model 3 line. I know there's what, 2 lines over there? He said, yes. And I said, you showed us the entirety of the S and X line. That's 1 line. He goes, yes. I said, how many lines you got for the Y? And he wouldn't give me an answer. He was very squirrely. He said, it's more of a circle. What? It's more of a circle. So like a river that gets wider? No, it's more of a circle. So like an octopus? No, it's kind of hard to explain. Well, thank goodness you didn't show it to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that means that Fremont has more capacity. We know Texas has more capacity. They could just reinstate some shifts that had been scaled back or add additional shifts. They could handle an additional shift.
Yeah.
So just with that, China, I don't think could add more capacity. They could add incrementally 5% more,
Right.
but even 5% gets you 10% of the way to your 50%
Right.
increase.
Right.
And Berlin could definitely increase production from the existing
Yes.
setup there by just adding shifts. So then the question becomes, yes, but Tesla is always late making new models. And I would say, no, they're not.
No.
The Model Y, when it was announced, they said it was March 14th, I think, of 2019. They said it'll be out late next year, which means anywhere from 18 to 21 months out.
Mm-hmm.
And it came out 12 months later.
Mm-hmm.
It came out 365 days later, 1 day earlier on the calendar because it was a leap year. And it was done early,
Yeah.
desperately early, 9 months early, it was done. And that is because it shared so many parts. It shared so much of the manufacturing philosophy and line with the Model 3. When they said, we're going to have the Model 3 out in China, in 1 year's time. They had it out in
Wow.
1 year's time. We could
Wow.
see the cars piling up on the lot in advance of the launch.
Yes.
They said, we're going to build the Model Y factory, give us 1 year. And
Yeah.
1 year later, the Model Y was out. What do all these things have in common? They're using known lines, established running lines with a known manufacturing procedure to build something that's only a little bit different than what's been built before. That gives you a lot of opportunity to move quickly. So that alone is how, just by tapping into the excess capacity in Berlin, Texas, and Fremont to a lesser extent, and China to an even lesser extent.
So what I'm hearing out of all of that is actually the worldwide capacity of existing buildings, if they were set up the right way and really pumping out, is more than 3 million total.
Absolutely, because we didn't discuss really the Cybertruck, which
Right.
is just getting started.
Right.
By the end of the year, that's going to be moving a big chunk of that extra million uh, as we get into next year when we see, hopefully, production of these intermediate compacts.
Okay, so that leads into, you cleverly, made the segue into the question of, because some people think somehow that this product that's going to come out in the fall or in the winter or in next early spring, that car that's going to come out is somehow just a not so quite great Model Y or 3 or something. And,
Oh,
so the question is, isn't this going to truly be a completely different what's my word?
form factor.
Form factor. Okay, form factor. Isn't it going to be a hatchback or something like that?
So that is my belief. I've heard people say, I know Herbert has long said the $25,000 car will just be a stripped down Model 3. And I've long said, nah, that's not really how Tesla does it. In part because they don't like selling stripped down cars, and in part because that would devalue the cachet of the Model 3 itself. When you roll up in your fancy car that you paid 50, 60,000 for at the time, and people go, oh, is that, oh, look, you've got a Hyundai Elantra. It's not as exciting.
Yes.
So I think there would be some protection there, but there's a lot of features that Tesla doesn't want to get rid of. You could strip out all the FSD equipment and save 1,000, 2,000 right there. Tesla won't do that. That's part of the business plan. They could strip out some of the safety features. Let's say it's only 3 stars. They're not going to do that. I think it'll be something that is genuinely cheaper to make. I would agree it doesn't necessarily need 11,000 speakers to do a good job. The regular sound on the cheapest Tesla you can buy is already mind-blowingly good.
Yes.
And an awful lot of what is done to make the sound good is engineering, not parts. So they could absolutely maximize that as well. So no, I think it'll be a whole new shape. It'll have a different look. If you park it next to an existing 3 or Y, you will know which one is which.
All right. And will it be $25,000?
No, I'm going to say no, because it's an intermediate compact. It doesn't tap into all of the savings of the unboxed method. In the unbox, we know a lot of the streamline to the manufacturing. What we don't know is the additional savings. Is it going to have a cyber skin? Is it going to be plastic instead of metal? We don't know any of that, but all of those are integral to that price point. So this would be more like 30, while the Model 3 remains at 35 to 40. And if you look at the pricing on a Honda Civic hatchback versus sedan, you'll see that the price spread is not substantial. And it's not always about the price. It's that some people just don't want a big car.
Right.
I know people who won't drive the Model Y because it's too big,
Right.
but will drive the Model 3 because it's the same size but shorter. It feels smaller.
Right. Yes, absolutely. All right. So here was another confusing part. Elon said that they're spending $10 billion on AI this year. And then I started going, wait a minute, I look at the CapEx, I look at what they're spending on these various parts that could be added up, and I couldn't come up with 10 billion. And then other people said, in fact, I even think I said early on, I said, well, he meant 10 billion so far. through this year, through the end of this year, they'll be spending 10 billion on Dojo and the various IPUs from NVIDIA, etc. So, what say you?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I looked at it I think it was 2 billion that was spent this quarter, but you
Yeah.
still don't see it because it's amortized. You
Yeah.
need to depreciate GPUs over a specific time period. It's probably 5 or 6 years,
CPUs, yeah,
or
not IPUs, yeah.
yes,
I'm sure I was
or
thinking.
AIP. Elon even said, we call them GPUs. They're not doing graphics, but they need to depreciate them over a number of years. So those won't show up right away. And then, of course, you can fully amortize them if you take them out of service, but it is possible that they would take them out of service within 5 to 6 years as technology advances. The other big exciting thing that was kind of glossed over in those numbers is this is how many H100 equivalents we have. And if you go back and start adding up how many they've bought, you'll find they're short by 25%, suggesting that 25% of the cluster is already Dojo.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Which would be pretty exciting.
All right. So you think the number is actually, because he kind of repeated it again in that later interview that he was in, that it was 10 billion a year to be in the game. That anybody that's not spending 10 billion a year, they can't be in the game.
Well, they spent 2 billion last quarter plus whatever on their in-house stuff, which
Right.
would easily annualize to 10 billion.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
And Facebook is buying even more.
Even more. Yeah, I know.
And I asked some experts, what on earth are they spending it on? They said, well, their language models and their graphic. I'm like, right? That's too much. They go, yes. What they're probably doing is coming up with even worse ways to serve you ads. I go, okay, there it is. Now we found it.
All right. So now you'll notice that so far in this conversation, I keep saying Elon says, Elon says, Elon says. You know what? It really appears that Elon is hard at work at Tesla. Even noted that he worked 27 straight hours the other day when he was flying back from China. Now he's focused. Is he doing? I know that I do not believe that he's doing this because his pay package is at risk. I do believe that he's doing it because he wants to send a message that while he may have always been working this hard on Tesla, people were worried about it. And so he wants to go, but maybe there's more focus right now. Your thoughts?
There's always going to be more focus in one area. When Starship was getting off the ground initially, he was spending more time there, and that made sense. When Giga Texas was getting off the ground, he was spending his time there. I haven't seen him spending time at Neuralink or the Boring Company, but I believe that those are, well, for one thing, they're not publicly traded companies, so they don't have to constantly answer to shareholders in Wall Street. But also, I view those as more engineering insanely intensive, where if Elon rolls into Neuralink, I don't know what contributions he could make that would be necessarily helpful. Whereas when it comes to something like Tesla, where he is the one who got it off the ground, where SpaceX, where he is the one who literally lifted the rockets on his own shoulders and threw them into space. Well, okay. But even at SpaceX, he doesn't have to focus the way he does because Gwen Shotwell runs the company and does a masterful job of it. They've got the best. And if you were an aerospace engineer, where would you want to be?
Yeah.
And that's where all the engineers are, because ULA is really, really dropping the ball. There you are. There you are. You were melting. I didn't want to say anything.
Yes.
So I believe it's critical that he focuses where he's needed at any given time. And there will be coast phases. He's pushing it over this hill. It'll roll down the next side, and then he'll push it up the next hill.
Mhm.
Is he doing this to curry favor in advance of a shareholder vote? Maybe. Is he doing this to push up or down the stock price? That's a degree of conspiracy theory I'm not comfortable engaging in. And, I look at, how I am. I'm looking at the 10-year, and the 10-year for me looks about as good as ever. I'm definitely annoyed by the Supercharger team layoffs. I think that was I cannot find a silver lining, and I have looked, but we'll see how that goes. But over the 10-year horizon, I'm not sure we'll look back and remember this moment.
Well, I'll give you a moment's thought. Maybe you haven't seen my videos on the Supercharger network. My videos on the Supercharger network, I gave about 5 or 6 reasons why I thought it might make sense. Number one is I think that he is figuring that the U.S. government is in the game now. The U.S. government doesn't want to give him the U.S. government combined with the state governments won't give him a fair number of contracts, even though they have the lowest price by a lot. And it's like, okay, take it over, you guys. Go for it. We have enough for our people. We have enough locations. This is a big one. We have the locations. You've done this. You've driven across country. There's no problem with the spacing of the locations. And he says, we're not planning to cut back on the number of units, charging units that we're putting in these locations. In fact, we're going to continue to increase the number of charging units. So in the United States and Europe, and I think in China, they've got the stations. Now it's just a matter of making more units available at those stations.
Well, on that point, Tesla is the largest award winner of supercharger of fast charger money. So they're already getting more money than anyone else.
It's like 22% or something.
Yes. And awarding more than that would appear monopolistic, perhaps. But there are gaps. There are absolutely gaps. If you look at someone like Kyle Connor, who zigzags, gets off some of the roads you and I travel. But even for myself, when I went out to Long Beach, Washington, there are no chargers in Long Beach. I could head 20 miles south to Astoria, I think is the closest one. No, Seaview, maybe, Oregon. It's far. There are absolutely gaps in the map. And if you're annoyed that the government isn't giving you enough, then canning the entire department is still the wrong approach, no matter what vehicles. And you could argue they do have enough for themselves, but the network just opened up to everyone. So even if Tesla tomorrow made a car that no longer needs charging, they've still got millions on the road. They'll still have another at least million before that new miracle infinite battery comes out. And they've got all the other cars coming into the network. And that alone would warrant expansion. And Elon's comment that, well, we'll just expand existing locations. Tesla themselves have already said expanding a location is as much work and cost as building a whole new one, because you've got to run new power. You've got to get the probably upgrade power at least to the street, maybe all the way back to the substation. And I'd say a real obstacle right now is getting transformers, which now have as much as a 2-year lead time and are costing 5 to 9 times more than they did just a few years ago, because everybody needs them and the supply has yet to ramp appropriately. So hopefully somebody sees that opportunity and is stepping in to make transformers. I've seen a good theory that well, other companies are now stepping in to fill the gap. Right, but they're not. They're not. That's a very slow process. And this was a moat that Tesla built. And now it is,
Yeah, I'm not terribly concerned. I
did see some very cynical people saying, oh, I'm at a supercharger. Look at all this chaos, you guys. Right.
Yeah.
No one's saying it's going to fall apart in a day.
Right.
You can stop maintaining the bridge in town. And guess what? It's still going to work great for 20 years. But after 20 years, it's either going to fall down or you're going to spend 50 times more than you would have to keep it standing.
And I'm pretty sure that if a year from now, Tesla is looking at the overall picture and they look at it and they go, you know what, we've got these gaps. We've been hearing about these gaps. We can see, in fact, on we've got the numbers. We've got all the data that we need to know where the gaps are. Yes, we need to start building that department up again. And I think I'm not terribly concerned about it. Okay, Brian.
That's me.
You are an enigma, completely wrapped in a mystery. And
yes,
you're going to have a big deal thing happening up in some Midwestern, Northwest, whatever they call that part of the country, up around the Great Lakes. Something going up there, and you've got a mystery guest. And I don't know. Help me out here. What's going on?
So in Muskegon, or as it's known for the day of our big event, Muskegon, they did announce that that officially it is It's spelled the same, but we're allowed to pronounce it differently and not be corrected. Don't worry, people in the comments will still correct us. We have this. I'm working to help the Michigan Owners Club put together their event. I helped them last year, and this year's going to be bigger. We've got Sandy Monroe, we've got Dr. Know-It-All, we've got Bearded Tesla Guy, we've got Dr. John Gibbs, Dr. Scott Walter, we've got Kyle Connor from Out of Spec is going to be there. I'm going to be there. Dirty Tesla, so many big names. Matt Smith and Bradford Ferguson from Rebellionaire, and as of last night, we secured our final guest. This is one spot that we had left open on purpose in hopes that we could get this person. And as of yesterday, he is confirmed. Huge rock star, big name in the Tesla community. So stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Oh,
the only hint I can give is that it is unfortunately not Rob Maurer. He is not. He never really did events.
Yeah.
Getting him to take the stage was always something that everyone struggled with because it's just not his jam.
Yeah, yeah.
But now that he's focusing on his investment company, I guess, he's definitely unable to attend, unfortunately. Still, still love that guy, but it is not him.
Okay.
It is the next biggest name in all of Teslaverse.
Well, it's not me. It's not me. So what do you mean next biggest name?
I didn't. Yeah. So if you scroll down to the very bottom of the page and you hit next, then Randy might be on that page.
Okay. So there's a big fight going on right now on X. I mean, this is the biggest fight since I think it was Warren versus Boomer Mama or something. I forget. Warren's been in so many fights I can't remember, but we now have a big fight going on, and it's all about Troy Teslike. He is absolutely blocking one person after another, and some of them are even sad about it. Not everyone. I'm a big Troy Teslike fan, so maybe he's going to block me for even bringing all this up. I don't know, but he does seem to have a thin skin. Maybe. I think it's possible that you've been blocked by
I have.
Yes,
I have been blocked.
So
yeah, Tesla Boomer Mama, Matt Smith, Bradford Ferguson, Jeff Lutz, all of the serious analysts, it appears, in Teslaverse, who have and not to say you're not a serious analyst, I apologize, I didn't mean that. And there are plenty of other names I'm sure who are not blocked, but a lot of the serious Tesla people have been blocked by Troy. In my case, it was because I questioned his methodology for the Q1 numbers, and that got me blocked. Anyone who responded favorably to what I said was blocked.
Oh boy.
A lot of people who, anytime Troy puts out numbers and somebody says, oh, you know who else has good numbers? They are blocked.
I see.
And it doesn't matter who they say, they are blocked. And Troy, I know you consider him very favorably. The problem becomes, it becomes impossible to see the flaws in his methodology when he blocks anyone who points out the flaws in his methodology. He creates this very insular bubble. He loved to brag. I have a miss rate of 2.2% over the past 13 quarters.
Right.
And now we've got 14 quarters. That number has gone up because he missed by a lot last quarter. Yeah. He was the closest, but that's, not getting the closest to the moon doesn't get you to the moon. So
recently he has said things like the second quarter will be worse than the first quarter. Total unit sales for 24 will be less than 2023. The Optimus in the new video is human controlled, even though the commentary on the video said it was no such human involvement. Has he lost touch?
So when he said he missed by 2.2%, the problem with that number, as bad as it was, that's like in Wall Street territory. The problem with that number is that's his end of quarter number. His numbers start very different than they end. And if you go back to the beginning of Q1, he missed by, I think it was Q1. Yeah, one of the quarters. His beginning of quarter number was off by 8.7%.
Uh-huh.
That's bad. If we're talking about predicting the past, when the last quarter is coming, when you're at the end of the quarter, you've got 2.5 months of real numbers. You really only have to crunch the last 2 to 4 weeks, and he still misses by more than 2.2%. On my production numbers, I've missed by more than 2.2% once, and I'm often the outlier. I've been the outlier to where people were making fun of me, and then
Right.
I was the most accurate because we all do our own calculations mostly. Anyone who shows their math.
Sometimes they're just making fun of you because it's fun.
It is fun. It can be fun, but you have to do it right. I wouldn't I won't use bad language on your show, but someone recently called me a very lazy insult. And so instead of stooping to his level, I called him a turd slurry. You got to keep it productive. You got to be funny.
That's right. Yeah.
So then we've got the bot thing. So in his post, his now deleted post, he said, bot is 0% trained, 0%. Now, I don't know bots well enough to assign a percentage.
Yes.
I would not feel, if you said, nope, gun to your head, you got to pick a percentage, I would say between 20 and 80% done.
Yeah, right.
But I would not give 100% confidence interval on 20 to 80.
Right.
But I would never say 0 to 3% or 97 to 100%,
Right.
because I think those two ranges can safely be ruled out.
Yeah. And
he's saying 0%. And a lot of people said this is crazy. And he went on another blocking spree because this is bad. And now we can see that there's a human teleoperator training it. Right. They showed you that. They chose to show you that. That wasn't an accident.
Right.
You didn't catch them.
Right.
That was part of the demonstration. That was the full disclosure part. That should give you confidence that they're being transparent and honest about this. It would be very easy to just leave all that stuff out. It'd be easier than including it. So we also know that because when he blocked Matt Smith from Rebellionaire, Matt Smith said, it's interesting. I thought we had a friendly relationship because when Troy decided he was going to start modeling earnings per share, he reached out to me to get a better understanding of how earnings per share works. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this guy doesn't, he's sharing these numbers like he's a guru, and he's not. He's just a tinkerer, and he doesn't disclose that. And anyone who might shed light on it is instantly banned. I think he blocks more Tesla people than Tesla Q does.
Wow. Interesting. Wow.
Because I've got a lot of Tesla Q that still haven't blocked me.
Yeah.
But Troy has. Yeah. And this is his bread and butter. This is how he makes his living. And he makes a good living giving out terrible, terrible numbers.
Well, I'm not going to say that because I don't want to be blocked. So I think
and you like his numbers.
I think he gives interesting numbers. I think useful numbers that I can take and use in my own calculations to come up with my own conclusions.
And yeah, but we've seen your numbers.
I beat you once.
No, I meant your stock numbers.
Oh, your stock. Oh, my stock. I hit that exactly on the nose last year. Well, it wasn't on the nose. It was 87 cents short or something. But that was once also. So, yeah. I got to do it again. Or at some point I need to hit it again, Worth
mentioning, on earnings per share, you beat me every quarter.
Every quarter.
I don't do earnings per share. But that, still counts because yeah.
Hey, Brian, it's always fun to have you on my channel.
Is it?
Follow him and go to Michigan. That's where Muskegon is, I think.
Yes.
Because it just sounds right. It has the right Muskegon, Michigan, or Muskegon, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
It's way better than Muskegon, Wisconsin. See, it's just wrong. Don't you think?
I think sometimes. I think.
Brian, thank you so much for being on board, and we will undoubtedly see you soon. Really, really soon.
Sounds good.
To all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.